Ah. Jarsdel took a 20 out of his billfold and tucked it under his water glass. Forget it. No, I want to pay. You didn't eat anything, and you're a cop. Maybe next time one of those homeless guys comes in and won't leave, you guys will get here a little faster. Jarsdel stood and headed for the door. Thanks again. So, that's a no on my daughter, Jarsdel hadn't worked a fresh homicide in nearly a month, when a woman had run over her boyfriend after he'd stormed out of her car during an argument. He'd been big, over 200 pounds, but there'd been enough ground clearance for him to go into the bumper. He might have survived, but he snagged on the suspension, painting Melrose for 60 yards before popping out from under the left rear tire. It had been an easy case, a slam-dunk second-degree charge with enough physical evidence to convict 100 times over. Wisely, the accused had gone for a plea deal. Crime stats were down. A good thing. A great thing. But that meant sifting through the division's back catalog of unclaimed, unidentified corpses. Dead in a corner, dead in a bathroom stall, dead in a gutter. Dead in tall grass, in a railway yard, in a dry swimming pool, and so many of them. Piles upon piles of exanimate flesh. These cold cases, or open unsolved as command preferred, were casualties of Hollywood homicide's initial closure in the early 2000s, chilling as they were traded off to Wilshire or Olympic. As new bodies stacked up, momentum on the cases had first slowed, then stopped altogether. It probably would have stayed that way if not for the unexpected revival of the Hollywood homicide table. The brainchild of Deputy Chief Cynthia Komsky, HH2, would pair seasoned homicide detectives with recruits fast-tracked from patrol. With only 2 positions available, selection was highly competitive. A successful candidate would have to possess both high fluid and crystallized intelligence and demonstrate a diverse range of skills. These included critical thinking, cross-cultural communication, emotional competence, and spatial reasoning. Out of nearly 500 applicants, Komsky's review board had conducted 50 interviews. Half of these went on to undergo a battery of aptitude tests, after which 10 were polygraphed and given psychiatric evaluations. Following a final round of interviews, the board had chosen Kay Barnhart, a former clinical psychologist, and Marcus Tullius Jarsdel, who'd cut out halfway through a Ph.D. in ancient history to become a cop. The professor detective, the Times had called him. It wasn't a compliment. There was the initial sense that HH2 was a gimmick, that the force was being given an intellectual facade to make it more palatable to the Hollywood left. But when HH2 began clearing cases at 20 percentage points above the national average, the mockery dried up. Jarsdel liked the cold cases. The emotional distance afforded by time allowed him to focus purely on the details. They were contained in a sense, black boxes to be analyzed and modeled. Of the ones they were currently working, 3 interested him the most. First on the list was Kyle Antoine, who died in a house fire, his own arsonist creation, while trying to commit insurance fraud. He'd almost certainly had help from his brother Mitch, who'd been caught on security footage the previous day filling a gas can. No crime there, but he'd driven up to the pump in a working automobile, hadn't put a single drop in the car's tank, and didn't own any gasoline-powered equipment. As for his alibi the night of the fire, Mitch Antoine had married himself to a rickety, overly elaborate story involving a date at Moonlight Rollerway in Glendale, dinner at the Galleria's food court, and caring for his girlfriend's sick chinchilla. Antoine claimed he'd attended to the animal through to the early hours of the next morning, and that the poor creature couldn't keep nothing down, not even water. It was a phrase he'd repeated so often in his interview that it had become a Hollywood homicide catchphrase. Morales even printed it on a T-shirt, which he'd given to Jarsdel for his birthday. Jarsdel sensed Antoine would buckle if further pressed, not least because chinchillas and other rodents were incapable of throwing up, a critical component of the alibi. Jarsdel looked forward to pressing him. A manslaughter charge would stick nicely along with felony conspiracy.